Welcome to our monthly Zoom 24th of September, and the topic is means of art and iconography. Iconography is called theology and color, and it's a synthesis of art and theology. Besides, Christian iconography was born many years before the terms like art and aesthetics were born. Is it still okay if we speak about icons as we speak about the artworks? I probably should put it in a different way. How legitimate, somebody else is willing to attend. So how legitimate is to evaluate medieval icons in the same way as we evaluate contemporary art or Renaissance art? So I think it can be a real question, but I probably should move a little further and then ask everybody to answer like several questions at all. Because these drastically different images, I didn't bring here to ask you which is better. My idea was to show that both of them were made as artworks, even though they may look aliens for each other. So like when we look at this gentleman's portrait, and we think that it's probably a young man, but from the other hand, the main thing is we see a message of the artist. So what is it? It's delivered in a classical form, classical artistic approach. We can judge that this artist has excellent knowledge of forms and colors, composition, etc. And we can say he uses these means mainly to reveal the character of the young man and to invite the viewers to admire what he did. It may sound childish, but it's like creating a flower, making it attractive for bees. Well, not only attractive, of course, there is depth and many other qualities, but still it's mostly, or this image mostly is about the personality and how the artist is dealing with it. Well, it may sound extreme or ordinary, but this artist painted a beautiful portrait and we just love it. In words of a viewer, not artists, we can say that way. But an artist could say, what a great job. Because it's a job to bring together thousands of minor and major things to make the image be what it is now. And let's try to use our, technical tools and try to make a very little change to this image and see what happens. So you will almost notice no changes in this image, and yet there is a little difference. So I have removed on the right one a teeny tiny bit of coloring, and we have a totally different expression, totally different impression. Something is missing, and the whole power and tension of this image are corrupted. They're corrupted because there are hundreds and hundreds of decisions which brought this artist to the point where he and we are now. And we have changed a little bit of this. We have removed a couple of these decisions, and they didn't work because at the end, he wanted to conclude this something, and we have taken away some parts of this conclusion. So it's not a coincidence that this portrait arrived to that point, because artistic means were exploited to make this happen. The artist was carefully coordinating many things, many hundreds of decisions to make this image become what it is. And we can probably think that it's just about art, but let's try to turn back to the icons. And we can try to analyze it like we analyze the portrait, but we will fail because this artist didn't have such a sophisticated education, knowledge of anatomy as a portrait master. His colors are not so extremely researched, and he was not specifically aiming to produce so much beauty as the previous one. So why should we call this to be a piece of art? The answer is simple, because we need to evaluate every image in accordance with what the producer of this image wanted, what artist was planning, not what we used to see. And then we can say yes or no, whether it's good or not. And in this case, we need to get into the shoes of the person who lived in a reality way different from ours, many hundreds of years ago. And now again, the question, how can we say anything if we don't know the circumstances of this image was created, of this person, his life, etc.? And while it's not probably easy to believe, but there are certain ways we can safely speak about this image, this icon, without falling into heresy, because this artist belonged to the same visual culture we do. We can say that this person lived in, let's say, 17th century approximately, and his icon looks like other icons of the time. And there are lots of other comparisons we can make because we know his professional context, his contemporaries and his successors. And we see on his icon, because it's not a single image received from heaven like 10 commandments, it's time, school, personality of the artist, and we know how similar tasks like this one were solved by other artists of about the same time. So that's how somebody joining us, and that's how we can judge what personal individual decisions did these artists make in the image. And here we come to an interesting part. Every artist in every epoch had a different answer to the same question. So my question would be, and I probably will ask it in a couple of seconds to everybody, how free is an artist working for a Christian church? Well, we're not talking about history, because we know in Renaissance there was special stories where people were dealing with clients, and the church was a great freedom. We are speaking from our point, like I have a client, a certain Christian church of a certain denomination, how free I am as an artist. And how can a church artist think of an image? And that's my proper question. When and how a church artist would decide image is good enough and we should stop painting or writing or drawing. So what could be the requirement? For you, what's the personal decision, how you make the personal decision when you're done? Like, okay, I don't touch the brush anymore, I'm going to put it away and I'm happy with what it is. So any thoughts, any considerations to share? Maybe, I don't know, Peter? No, okay. If you feel embarrassed, but I hope you're not.
So it's part of our evaluation of art, or of most things, of literature, of opinion, of it is done in its context, but there's also our context. So we bring our life, our experience, our way of viewing things to that bit of art.
Okay, so how can we make decisions?
But it is, I mean, I'm Sue, my wife, is an historian, and she used to be a history tutor, and she would be marking essays, history essays, and time again she had to tell the student, you need to evaluate this in terms of the times, not of our times.
Okay.
And so as we look at art, we're kind of in, our culture is in conversation with the artist's culture. I had to come to terms with the fact that I came at iconography as a Protestant Western Christian, not as an Eastern Orthodox Christian. So Protestantism is my culture. So when I look at Eastern Orthodox art, it is a dialogue. I can't pretend to understand Orthodox art the way someone who has lived a lifetime in Orthodoxy. I can't pretend to understand it that way. I can only listen to others tell me about that experience for me. So my culture is in dialogue with that culture.
Okay, but he didn't answer how you say to yourself, like, okay, it's enough, I'm not painting this icon anymore. But okay, maybe Vivian, maybe you say a word, how you consider like certain work finished and certain work needs more time.
Okay, but if I'm to understand your question, you're saying that I'm painting this icon for a church, somebody else.
Yes, right? For somebody else, not for yourself. Yeah, that's the good part. Yes.
I think for me, it's then that conversation that I need to have with the people who are going to own it, live with it, and pray with it. Like, does it work for them?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're listening to, but you as an artist, it's your decision to have it finished or not. They can tell you, okay, we don't like this blue, we want it to be red, or vice versa.
Well, I usually decide that something is done when I think I've got nothing else to give. Like, I know it sounds odd, but it's almost as if like saying the energy has come to zero.
Huh. Okay, interesting. So Margarita.
Not that it's necessarily negative, but yeah, you're feeling at peace with it, you know, as opposed to the energy that comes from starting a piece, working on something, and then just coming to a pause. And that pause is a restful pause. When I say like zero energy, I just mean it's a restful pause and you're feeling at peace with it. Yeah. Okay.
Can I say it's harmonized? It's brought to a certain level where none of the details is extremely,
I suppose that's the visual way of describing it. I'm using the more emotive way of describing it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So Margherita, what about you? Margherita, lei non si sente. Oh mio Dio, va bene. Ok, forse non c'è il suo. Non si sente il suo. Va bene. Allora andiamo. Let's go forward and let's just continue because I have another answer. It's not much different from the one of Peter and Vivian, but it's in the sphere because actually, especially what Vivian was talking about, is to bring to a certain level the means of art, because you bring them into a certain position in which you feel they're harmonized. They are not requiring any further perfection, any development, any tuning. Each part of the image, it looks done. So each of the colors, each of the drawing, each of every single mean of art. And that is exactly what they worked with. But we just have to think of a different mission. So can we say he accomplished his mission? I would say yes, even though, again, it's not such a research drawing, it's not such a beautiful color, but yet the mission is accomplished because that was his mission. He didn't want to make it horrifying or pleasing. He didn't want us to feel something specific and some psychological tension. He did what he wanted to do. And now I can say, what were the means which helped him to do that? He chose the colors, he chose the composition, he chose the hand. So he still is an artist. And if you want to be an artist, you will make something good. If you don't want to be an artist, you will not make something good. That's the problem. Because when you look at an icon, it is some very provincial artist produced it, but he was thinking of how good was this red with this green, how big should be the figure of St. Nicholas compared to other figures. So the questions this person was solving were questions artists usually solve. They are questions of art means. Thinking of how to deliver his message, he had to deal with how loud is this message? How good are the words? And technically, we can really compare it with the speech. Not only words matter, but how we say them. Do we believe in what we are saying? Do we mean what we are saying or not? It also is very important, because to convince somebody, you need to firmly believe in what you're trying to convince others. And now I'm happy to come to the question which was posted last week. How can you be sure that the line you're making is the best? Like that you are achieving some good result with the line, and this line is the very best you could achieve. So I don't know, if you'd like to answer something, I'd be happy to listen, or I would just move on, because again, it's a question of art means, but how can we be sure it's the best? I've chosen the best red or the best size of hello or what?
You just know it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Anyway, it sounds flippant. It sounds flippant that you just know it. But when you were going on just now, something occurred to me that okay, Philip, you know the other work that I like to do, how I like to do my abstracts.
Yes.
And it suddenly dawned on me why I struggle so hard with doing icons. That because when it comes to doing icons, I'm too in my head. And you can become more controlly, you know? But when I'm doing my abstracts, I'm highly intuitive.
I see.
And then when I'm free, I know that that's a good stroke. That's me. And I'm putting myself into it. But with icons, I just become all tight and thinky, you know, like in my head. And so it's just, that's why I struggle with it. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. But the answer is that iconography is just a complex language. And there are so many rules one is forced to learn before you can start speaking freely. Because even those who know the language make mistakes, and they make mistakes sometimes on purpose, but you first have to know the rules. So entering the world of iconography, you feel so many limitations, like starting to drive a car, you have to learn 555, I don't know, rules, not to turn right, not to turn left, and things like that. So that's the weight you're feeling when you start painting an icon. But what you said about being natural yourself and being driven by intuition, this also has to have place in iconography. It just should be should be obeyed in obedience with the goal of the image. So that's how it should be kept happening. Because if you kill yourself to find the best blue, and in the process of finding the best blue, you constantly think not of just having it nice and cool, but accomplishing the mission you have in mind, that's okay. Because we need this green, red, the halos, everything to accomplish the mission. And sometimes we can be intuitive, sometimes we have to be rational, but anytime we are doing it, it's always dealing with the art means. The main problem is to teach yourself to make the art means obey the mission you have. So this is the most difficult process. And to answer, Peter, did you want to say the word, how to find the perfect line? Yes.
I'm sort of a bit apologetic about the last answer I gave, because I wasn't answering the question Yes, I hope I'm
Yes.
answering your
Yes.
question this time. That I think Vivian says, you know, you just know it's subjective.
It stays there.
It looks pleasing, but I think as I get more experience and as I learn more about the technicalities of art, I'm able to answer the question, so why is it pleasing? So there's the objective part of it too. And being able to look at something, so I'm pleased with that. And as I look at it, I can analyze it in terms of color theory, of tone, of balance, of light, of cool and warm, so that when I come to another one and say, hang on, this isn't pleasing me the same way. Now I've got that information for analyzing this to see, oh, that there's a lump of red there. It's too cool up there. It needs to have something up there to balance that out. That color doesn't work with that. Let me look at the color wheel. Oh, that's because that's there and that's there, and that's weird. So I think it becomes a combination of subjective and objective, of being able to analyze and understand why something is pleasing in order to be able to say why something is odd, not pleasing.
Well, I probably should suggest to substitute the word pleasing with working well. Okay.
Yeah.
Because pleasing is something always nice and I don't know, sweet.
Pleasing to me is what works well.
Okay, that's cool. That sounds convincing now. Now it's convincing. Okay, then. So I want to return to the portrait which we were discussing in the beginning. And in a moment, we probably will get back to it, but not sure right away. Because on this image, we see someone being an iconographer and performing what he or she was supposed to do. And in theory, this red should be okay with the blue because we know color wheel, that's what they say. But in real life, it happens that whenever we see something painted or created by hand, our eyes distinguish the mechanism it was made with, distinguish the state of mind and soul it was produced with. Because in this case, I think even if we show it to someone who is alien to paint or iconography, we can ask somebody, hey, do you think was this piece produced by someone inspired or someone just accomplishing a certain task? And which of the two would be more convincing? Because in this case, I say, okay, it's 5 square feet or meters or whatever of certain surface decorated with something which should be supposedly in this place. But does it work? That's another question. So being artists, we are supposed not only to deliver the message, but make this message acceptable for others. And acceptable means you not only make efforts to like everybody to hear you well, but also to be convincing. And you only can be convincing if you believe in what you're doing. And in turn, if you believe in what you're doing, you will spend time choosing the best blue and the right line and everything. So my answer to Sarah, who asked me this other question, would be the line is the best because I found it, because I have tried different other lines which didn't work. And I only discovered that one and it feels right, as Vivian says. It feels right because I found it. It's not because I just took it from out of the blue and say, okay, this color should be fine. It's my intuition, it's my experience, it's my understanding of what is good and not, that makes line good. And of course, having more expertise, you have more ability to find a good line. But there is always this danger to become professional. Because being professional, you simply follow algorithms without trusting your own feelings, your own abilities to judge things, to make things. So that's how it works. Yes, these are means of art, which supposedly should be helping us. But from the other hand, means of art are the tools. And it's always some human which is turning the wheel and saying, in this case, I use this means of art to deliver that concept or feeling or theory or theological dogma. And in that case, I will use that other means to deliver this other thing. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. I guess it wasn't really too concrete as it could be, but my idea was to try to spread this attention, to share it between the theological understanding of an icon, delivering a certain and very concrete ideas, thoughts, and meaningful, statements, and art, which is, in this case, at service to deliver that. Because you can, I don't know, you can call and invite artists to your wedding, you can invite musicians, but it's up to them how to play at your wedding. In this case, we are inviting artists to our wedding, to our theological problem to be solved, to be performed visually. And it's the responsibility of these artists or musicians how well to do it. Whether their play will be, I don't know, joyful and inviting everybody to rejoice, or it will be okay, we're supposed to play something we do. That's it. Thank you very much. Any questions, any comments?
No, I like that last statement. I mean, the way you expressed it, that art and artist is at service to the purpose of what iconography is. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the point? Yes,
no, I mean, that's just my takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
My takeaway. But of course, then there's also that line between painting as a professional iconographer or just painting as a personal process of prayer.
I didn't hear the end of the phrase.
Painting as a professional iconographer.
Yes.
Or painting icons as a personal process of prayer.
Okay.
It's a personal process of prayer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a personal thing. I don't have, my intention is to not deliver it for it to be used someplace else.
Okay. So you're like making it for personal use. How different it will be.
I think not that there's any difference in how much I should put myself into it, you know what I mean? And the decisions that we make, it should be the same, but yeah, the process is different and the outcome is a bit different.
Vivian, it reminds me of you know, people have asked me, you know, do you pray continually while you're painting? And my answer is, well, yes, there is the odd prayer like, oh God, what do I do next? But that's not the point. It's actually the painting is the prayer.
Yeah.
That's the praying.
Yep. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's still different. Maybe what I'm saying is that I might hold myself up to different standards. As I was doing it for myself, as I was opposed to doing it for someone else. Yeah.
Well, I should say not standards, but considerations, because like you can make a little pie and for yourself, you can make huge pie for your friends. So this will be slightly different responsibilities because you have to calculate 5 kilos instead of 500 grams. But yeah, it's a process. You are asked as a professional sometimes, or you ask yourself as a professional for your own needs. Like, okay, I need to cook something for myself. I need to paint something for myself. How I do it? But I would say in both cases, you are the same. You're just doing it for different audiences. That's it. And I don't feel there's any specific difference. Like you probably will, I don't know, the bigger audience will probably require bigger size. The main thing, I think. And the bigger size will require you a little more complex image, a number of steps, an amount of details, but we are talking about the technical differences, not conceptual. How about that? Because for your own home, you may decide like, okay, I want some big image of, I don't know, something, flowers, whatever. Or I want my wall to be decorated with Annunciation, with Mother God was holding Lily, which was brought by Gabriel. And that could be the same level of complexity, even without anybody looking at this image, except you. So no, I wouldn't distinguish it that way. Well, you may, of course.
Actually, I actually in my head, and I think even the way I approach things, that yeah, complexity and technicality, I would hope that they are the same. But if I was doing something for myself, I don't even have to bring it to completion. So it's the process that's more important.
Okay.
But if it's for someone else, you have to come to a product, an end stage.
Okay.
I think that's where I come from, because I do a lot of art just for myself. It's the process. I don't necessarily complete things. And I could be at peace and enjoying the process and still in prayer, even though I don't complete it. Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I guess that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Well, here we, yes, really more on the terrain of art, where the how to say, the statement is more important than how perfectly it's embodied. Yeah, it's more important that the whole thing works than how good is the frame, how finished are the brush strokes, how final are the brush strokes. I'm with you. Okay, that makes sense. Great.
Oh, there's some food for thought there. Writing notes.
I see.
That's what I'm doing. I'm reaching for paper.
Interesting. Well, I guess it should be, how to say, iconographers doing, I've talked to many iconographers, and we recently had a Zoom, well, months ago, with Italians, that when you make sketches for your own future image, you are much freer than you actually paint this sketch or paint this icon. So what you're doing, you're providing yourself with ideas which are great and wonderful and beautiful, not necessarily putting them into a book. Like writing a short essay is easier than to write a book. That's what you're talking about, probably. Yes, like short poetries are easier than a long poetic Roman book, which would probably be delightful, but probably not. And it's so much more pain.
Yeah. I think, was it last month we were talking about the difference between painting for a client,
yes,
and you know, painting a series of icons and offering them up for sale. So you're inviting others to enjoy, to appreciate, to love, to pray with what you have provided, rather than trying to get into the mind and appreciation and prayer of another person. Yeah.
Yes, totally true.
And we're more free when we're just painting for ourselves rather than I've just sort of recently finished two what's the word I want, paintings for other people, and so it's very different trying to please somebody else.
Yes. Oh, it is impossible. Yes, because you never know what they see. But here we come again to this concept of like, what is our main goal?
Yeah.
whether we do what we consider is okay, or whether we try to adjust everything to what other people would do. Well, here I remember one of the films about chefs, and there was a little part where a chef was getting mad because clients asked him make hot gazpacho. And he went to the client and said, gazpacho is never hot.
Yeah.
What you're willing to have is forbidden, prohibited. It doesn't exist. And the, I don't know, owner of the restaurant said, you know what? If the client wants the gazpacho hot, you should make it. So then they chef is just leaving, leaving. So yeah, it is happening. It is happening often.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing
Well,
that.
good to catch up with you again.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Nice opportunity to see each other in this
Yeah, excellent
difficult
timing.
work.